Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me on day 3 of practice. I figured I'd do a quick tip video so I can get one out. And I'm going to do it on a bait that I'm having some luck here in practice. Practice has been brutal. Practice has been terrible, getting a handful of bites a day. Really had a tough time so far generating strikes. But day 3, the last day of practice, I've gotten into an area, starting to get some bites. Getting some really nice bites. Just had a swirl under the bait there, it looked like. On this, the Berkley Spin Rocket. This is a bait that is excellent around the spawn time. Just really good at generating strikes. We got boats flying through. Two boats flying through. So the key here, guys, is this is a spawning bait. This is a bait that, I mean, it works all year round, but it's a tantalizing topwater bait that you can throw around specific targets. So when you've got a specific target that you think might have a bedding fish or have fish starting to set up to spawn, you definitely want to let this just sit there. You know, it's not a bait you want to overwork. And in fact, I think a lot of people do overwork it because they really rip it. They really want to get the blades going like they're working a big old wood chopper for peacock bass. But in reality, I like to just pull on it just enough to get the tail and the two props to sputter just a little bit. It kind of goes, I don't want it to go, you know, really blow through the water. I'm looking at just enough to get those props to sputter, which to me looks a lot like fry being chased. It kind of makes a similar look, you know, where it's like something's being chased. And I think that's what the bass finds so tantalizing. So from that standpoint, you know, I throw it up in these areas, work it really slow. And a lot of times you want to watch your bait. In this case, you know, I've had my last 2 bites have been really nice fish. You know, I don't know how big, I'm not catching them. But I would say one was probably a 4-pounder and one was probably a 6+. It was a very, very large fish. And both of them showed themselves first. So I twitched it out and all of a sudden I saw like a boil underneath my bait. And then the next twitch, they actually hit it and took it. But it's really key to watch your bait for any sort of motion or in and around it, because a lot of times they don't hit it right away. They show themselves like they're trying to push it away or scare it to get away. And when it doesn't move, that's when they actually go ahead and eat it. So it's a really good bait for getting these fish to come up and strike. And a lot of times they show themselves too. Even if you see a boil, then you can throw a wacky rig or some sort of bottom bait back to them and generate some strikes from that standpoint. But there's a couple of things I want to point out. The first and foremost, the most important thing with this is don't overwork it. Don't just chop, chop, chop. You want to just throw it out, small twitches, guys. Let it sit there for a minute. Just a small twitch. Just enough, like I said, to get it to give a quick little sputter, and then it's done. Then you let it sit, a little sputter, and then you're done. And that's really what you're looking for. You're not going to work this bait the whole way back to the cast. It's really what I call a target topwater, meaning I'm throwing to a specific spot. I generally don't work my bait more than maybe a quarter of the way back to the boat. If I did, I would cover no water, and most of your strikes are going to come around the pieces of cover that you want to fish anyways. So that's what I would really recommend you concentrating on. You know, in this case, a lot of the bites that I'm getting are fish that are spawning right out in front of this hard line. You know, the hard line's too thick. They can't spawn under it because there's no light penetration. So they're spawning just out in front of it. So I'm just kind of going down this hard line, throwing into holes. If I've got any little isolated piece of weed or cattail, something sticking off, I'll definitely throw at that. You know, in this case, we've got some scattered grass in front of it. Little pockets, scattered grass over here in front of it. These are the things that I'm looking for, because these are the areas the fish are going to be keying in on, especially when there's no grass out in this open area. It's just like a mud bottom Really doesn't look that good, but we've been able to get, you know, a decent number of bites this morning. So I'm going to stick with this. One thing I do want to point out too that I do, so this is a little tip. So I take my surgical tubing and I cut about a 1/2 inch section, and then I've got a bobber stop that I put in it. And what that does is it really stops that from sliding around. Hopefully you can see it. There's a bobber stop in the middle of it. And this just slides up, or it does not slide, so it stays tight to the knot. But that little 1/2 inch section of tubing prevents the line from getting around the props. That's a really important thing to do. If you didn't use the tubing, and this is monofilament, which is still a little bit more, you know, resistant to getting tangled, but that little bit of tubing keeps it away. So it's a lot harder to wrap back around. It's definitely a key anytime you're throwing a prop bait, if there's a prop in the front, but it also works really well with other top waters as well. You can see in this case, I've got all my hooks rolled over. I like to use hooks still and not cut the hooks off completely so the bait sits right and looks the same way it would look when it's got hooks on it. But in this case, I'm not trying to catch fish. I'm trying to find them so I can come back to them. It really makes practice kind of boring because you don't get to catch any, because that one I had earlier, I would have absolutely loved to have caught. But anything I can do to increases the chances that I can catch them in the tournament, I will do it right now. If that means 3 days of not fun practice. The other thing it allows me to do is be a little bit more aggressive with this bait. You know, I can throw it into a hole like that, which I normally probably wouldn't do. But in this case, it just allows me to be more efficient in practice without getting hung up in any of the grass. But a lot of times these holes are key too. Those holes like that right there are the types of things where the fish are spawning, and somehow they're able to actually keep those holes open. I don't really understand it, but they're able to do it. And those holes are, you know, where they're going to be. There's a bunch of little fry popping around in that one, it looked like. So I'd highly recommend, guys, if you're getting out, we're starting to get the springtime here. If you're looking for a good topwater bait to generate strikes and to, you know, be a great search bait and spring bait, I would really recommend a prop style bait. I mean, the one that I like the most and has got a really hardcore following is the Berkley Spin Rocket. This is the MF Bluegill color. It's a fantastic bait. A little background story on it. It's a bait that last time I was at Okeechobee, Justin Lucas called me up looking for some. And I had the Spin Rocket, I didn't have the right color. So now it's a bait, since that phone call, I've used quite a bit in my arsenal, and it's been working really well. So now I know why he was looking for it. That's a little tip for you. If you ever have a pro ask you for a bait before a tournament, it's because they're catching them on it. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. All right, guys, I'm gonna get back to work here. So thanks for watching. If I can generate another strike or two, which I hope I can, maybe I'll show them to you while I've got a little bit of battery life left. But hopefully this tip was helpful. Use that little plastic tubing with a bobber stop. That will definitely help you enjoy your time throwing a prop bait, because it can get pretty annoying if you don't do that with line wrapping around the prop. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section, what are your favorite prop baits, so that other viewers can learn from you guys as well. And I'm gonna get back to work here. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned, we'll have a new video coming out tomorrow for you.